Welcome to the Karuna Life. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Gina Kitzmiller. I'm a professional intuitive, I'm a Reiki master teacher, I'm an author, and I am founder of Trimatri Reiki. And for today's episode, I thought I would do something a little bit different. It's been on my heart to begin to do some solo episodes to really talk about things that are either kind of going on in the world that I'm seeing around me or that is kind of on my heart. And so this is the first time we are going to do this. I believe I'm going to call it Intuitive Soul Notes. I have, of course, invited in my guides and angels and helpers to have this conversation. So you might see me pause. I might close my eyes to look off. That's what I do when I intuit in. But something has been kind of like percolating this week. So I thought it would make a good topic for the very first solo episode. And that is the kind of theme around what I would say is a fairy tale ending. So I'm trying to think of how to word this so I don't disclose any information around this person. But someone I know said that recently someone had told her that she wasn't going to get the fairy tale ending. And this was over text. So I actually responded back and I kind of laughed and said, I'm sorry, can you tell me who gets the fairy tale ending and what does that even look like? Because in my mind, I have some question there around that, right? There is often this belief in society that we are going to be entitled to a fairy tale ending. And yet, I would say we are here for life. Life happens. So, something might come together in one area, but there might be something really challenging going on in another, right? That's kind of the world that we live in. But it really got me thinking around kind of this theme. And I will share, and I share this in my book, that for me, I did believe in a fairy tale ending. And when I was younger and I got back together with Joe and we got married in our early 30s, and he was my first love at 15, I really felt, I don't know that I would say a sense of entitlement, but I felt really hopeful. And it felt like everything was coming into alignment, right? We talk about like the golden seeds or just feeling that the path is really laid out in front of you. And I was with this person and I knew we were meant to be together. And in some ways, I think I did think it was going to be my happily ever after, right? Everything was going to just unfold perfectly. And what happened, if you know my story, is that unfortunately I didn't get that happy ending, right? Joe was an alcoholic. Our marriage took kind of that hit. We separated, and then he died in 2018 by suicide. And really, I would say for the next year to 2 years after that, I really found myself going back to that kind of statement. And I was resentful. I was like, I did everything right, right? I had found my person. I had been faithful in my marriage. Like, I really wanted this to work. And yet, I didn't get that happily ever after ending that I really wanted. And it really took a lot of processing. And so that was some years ago, right? We were coming up, I think, on 8 years now. And so sitting here kind of on the other side of it, I can tell you that back then, I was in a really, really tough place, right? I was really questioning the happily ever after. And sitting here today, I can tell you that I am happy. I recently got engaged. It was like, I've got my ring on today, if you're watching the video. And I'm in a good place. And yet, if you said, did you get your happily ever after? I would still kind of question that, not because I don't love my fiance, but because there's always things and chapters in life that happen that are going to be challenging or less than perfect. And I don't know that anyone has this perfectly smooth and flawless life because that's not why we're here, right? We are here to have a human experience. And we are here to have our own soul's lessons. And oftentimes, those lessons don't come when the water is perfectly smooth and flat. They come from learning to ride the waves. They come from being out in choppy waters. And I'm laughing because I'm kind of quoting one of Jeff's guides. I'm trying to think of what he says. Jeff's guide, Chuck, says, like a sailor doesn't learn to sail on calm seas. And he's going to laugh that I quoted him, but I want to give him credit because that's not my quote. And I think it's very true. We don't learn to really navigate the world and life on calm seas. We learn through harder times. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I think oftentimes I hate to see people get like kind of locked into a story of one, there's only one person for them, right? I see this all the time. There's one person for me. And I always kind of laugh, and my guides kind of laugh, and they'll say, like, do you really think that God or the divine or source could only create just one person for you, right? Now, they might bring out different sides of you, right? There might be differences in those relationships. They might feel different. It might be different types of love and how those connections work. But I certainly believe that there is more than one person for each of us out there. It depends on who you are in this moment. And I think the real question with relationships is, can they grow with you? So as you're growing and changing and evolving, does this person grow with you? In that case, that's a lasting relationship. What I'm always hesitant about, though, is I often have clients who are younger and they want me to tell them that you're going to meet just one person and then that life is going to be great and easy and you sail off into the sunset, right? And sitting here today at 50, I can look back over those chapters and decades of my life and say, my goodness, like there's a lot of things I can say. A smooth sailing and kind of flawless, it's just not really in the cards. And it's very hard for me to look at a young person and tell them that it's going to be very easy. You're going to meet this person and it's going to be great. Because the reality is, even in good relationships, you're going to have challenging chapters. You're going to have areas that are going to be tough and you have to navigate and have hard conversations, right? Things in life are going to happen. People lose jobs, we lose family members, we get relocated. So there's all these areas that can really kind of come up to challenge us. And I think that where there's this real disservice is that if we think it has to be perfect or that it has to be a fairy tale ending, I think it's really missing kind of the real essence of what this life is and what it's about. And if we can kind of own that in a little bit more truth, then we can stand in our power. We can handle those wins when they come and be deeply rooted. And also knowing that just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it isn't good, doesn't mean that it doesn't fill your heart, that it's where you're supposed to be. It's your soul's guidance. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully, I'm not rambling too much. And I did want to ask my guides if they wanted to chime in on this. Okay, so they're kind of saying that in some ways we were kind of, and I don't know if this is the right phrase, sold a bill of goods, is what they're telling me, around kind of this, they're saying kind of story tale around like a quote unquote perfect life, around romantic relationships as well. And they're saying there can be really fulfilling relationships in all different forms. And they're saying that oftentimes as humans, we tend to put the romantic ones up here, and then we kind of put, like they're saying, kind of label and then divide down as we have those certain relationships. And yet they're saying it really is this beautiful kind of multitude of ways that we can really have beautiful relationships. They're saying for some of you, it's actually not with humans. It could be with animals, whether that's beloved pets or even in nature. And that really like fills you and that feels really good. And they're saying for others of you, you have fantastic friendships and that fills your heart. And then for some of you, I feel like you don't even really want a romantic relationship because they're saying to remind all of you that it is a choice in this life of what you want to experience. And they're saying kind of the downside is that sometimes we make judgments on what other people are experiencing. And they're gently reminding us that you don't really know what that person experienced in the last lifetime. So maybe something happened in that last lifetime that they said, gosh, in this life, I think I'd like to really maybe experience more friendship. Now, whether that was because there was a really challenging loss in that past life, or they're saying maybe it was a perfectly beautiful relationship and you feel kind of complete with that, where you're like, that was really great. And now I want to explore a different area. So they're saying to kind of take off our blinders a little bit and start to look at this a little bit from, they're saying, the bird's eye view of that there are all sorts of areas. Now, for some of you, you really want the romantic love. That's what they're telling me. They're like, it is a heart's desire. And they're saying for you, they're saying, then let's take a look at calling that in. And they're saying not from a place of lack, but to really look at kind of your story and what is it you really want. They're saying, are you asking for perfection? Are you asking for it to have to look in a certain way? They're saying for some of you, you have a very clear outline of this person needs to look exactly like this and they need to have this personality. And they're saying that's kind of you putting your own kind of humanness or human desires onto this other being. And they're saying, actually, your soul might want something that is a little bit more growth. So maybe this person isn't the like perfect carbon cutout of what you would want, but they really balance you. Maybe they give you grounding in a way that you really need. Maybe this person is like your rock and that you have such energy. You need someone to be a little more stable and grounded so that you can be you and that they can kind of hold you steady. There's all types of dynamics, they're saying, in relationships. And so they would encourage you to let go of this like standard that you might be having in your mind of it has to look this way and to just be open. And they're saying that's when really magical things can come in and you can really magnetize towards you the right person. And they're saying to look for the qualities. What is it you want to feel? I tell clients this all the time. So rather than focusing on, because we can tend to get tripped up on, I want someone who doesn't cheat on me, but the universe doesn't hear the don't. So the universe will hear, I want someone who cheats on me, right? So what are you going to magnetize towards you? And you'll see this with kind of themes that people have. Oftentimes people will come in and they'll say, I always have bad relationships, right? People always cheat on me. And I think, gosh, like always, like every person that you are in romantic relationship with, like, let's take a look at that. And oftentimes it is the narrative that's going on, or there's a wounding there that needs to be healed. So they're saying to take a look at, instead of calling in what you don't want, they're saying, call in what do you want? What do you want this person to make you feel? What do you want to be in the relationship? See yourself as authentic, see yourself showing the vulnerable side. That's hard for a lot of us to do. And then see yourself in the relationship. Like, are you laughing? What does it look like? Is it playful? And they're saying if you can focus on that rather than they're seeing a specific visual of this person or they have to meet X, Y, and Z, then you can begin to call that person in. And it really is about aligning to that frequency. And oftentimes, and I just want to drop this in too, because they told me this once, where I really, after Joe died, I wasn't ready for a relationship, but I really did want companionship. And so they encouraged me to go and do online dating. And I remember kind of getting frustrated with them and saying, like, I don't really want to do online dating. And they said, yes, but your kind of heart really needs some companionship. Like you just want to go out and talk with people. And that's what it was able to give me at that time. So that I could have that as I was still healing and moving towards being ready for another relationship. So they wanted to kind of point that out as well. Some of you, they're saying, are really afraid to try. You're really afraid to show yourself to other people. You're afraid, they're saying, that if you really show yourself, what if this person doesn't like me? And unfortunately, what can happen though is that you put up kind of a mask and the person doesn't really get to see the real you. So they don't really see where those connection points are. So they're saying they would really encourage you to be authentic, putting yourself out. If it's not the right person for you, they would rather that than to try to draw someone in on something that is inauthentic and not you. The person that's going to resonate with you will absolutely see you and love you for you in that vulnerability. And that's where we can make those closer connections. So that is what we have for today. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear, do you believe in fairy tale endings? Those of you that feel that you've had a fairy tale ending, I would love to hear that as well. And let me know what you think about doing these intuitive soul notes. What other areas or topics would you like for me to cover? Let me know in the comments or drop me an email, support@thekarunalife.com. As always, if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us 5 stars and following. It really does help others find this work. So have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.